आयरन ओर पे 30% निर्यात शुल्क तो जारी रहेगा, लेकिन बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण है, बड़ा ध्यान से सुनिएगा और बदमाशी सारी यहीं शुरू होती है। लेकिन अगर यह लौ अयस्क छर्रों के माध्यम से निर्यात किया जाए तो उस पर कोई निर्यात शुल्क नहीं लगेगा। पैलेट्स, छर्रे, तो लौ अयस्क पे 30% ड्यूटी रहेगी, लेकिन छर्रों पे नहीं रहेगी। चलिए कोई बात नहीं। निर्यात करने की अनुमति सिर्फ KIOCL को प्राप्त थी, यहां तक भी सब ठीक लगता है सुनने में। लेकिन 2014 से अब तक टिल डेट इस नई नीति के तहत कई निजी कंपनियों ने छर्रों के माध्यम से हिंदुस्तान का लौह अयस्क निर्यात करना शुरू कर दिया, जबकि नीति ने सिर्फ KIOCL बोला, लेकिन हल्का कर दिया, 64% कॉन्सेंट्रेशन को भी डाइल्यूट कर दिया, और फिर 30% ड्यूटी भी माफ कर दी छर्रों के माध्यम से अगर आप निर्यात करें तो। इसका लाभ उठाते हुए निजी कंपनियों ने, प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स ने भी यह निर्यात शुरू कर दिया और शुल्क के माध्यम से हजारों करोड़ रुपए की इस पे चोरी हुई। अनुमान यह है कि निजी कंपनियों ने 2014 से 2020 तक अब तक लगभग 40,000 करोड़ रुपए का लौह अयस्क निर्यात किया है। आयरन ओर वर्थ 40,000 crore rupees has been exported by private players। स्मरण रहे कि इन कंपनियों के पास लौह अयस्क को निर्यात करने की कोई अनुमति नहीं थी, विदाउट एनी परमिशन, कोई अनुमति नहीं थी। निजी क्षेत्र की वह कंपनियां जिनके पास अपने उपयोग के लिए लौह अयस्क की खदानें थी, उन्होंने भी इस मौके का फायदा उठाते हुए स्टील मंत्रालय और केंद्र सरकार की नाक के नीचे उम्दा स्तर का गुड क्वालिटी आयरन ओर को छर्रों के माध्यम से निर्यात कर दिया। ऐसा करने से न केवल भारत को अपने बेशकीमती प्राकृतिक संसाधनों को लुटाया गया भारत में, बल्कि 12,000 करोड़ रुपए का निर्यात शुल्क भी चोरी हुआ। 12,000 करोड़ का ड्यूटी इवेजन हुआ, चोरी हुआ। फॉरेन ट्रेड डेवलपमेंट एंड रेगुलेशन एक्ट 1992 के तहत इन कंपनियों पर लौह अयस्क छर्रों के गैर कानूनी निर्यात पर 2 लाख करोड़ का जुर्माना बनता है। ये तो बड़ी बड़ी बातें नोशनल करते थे, मैं तो आपको एक्चुअल फिगर दे रहा हूं। कानून के जरिए अगर हम सिर्फ उस एक्ट को पढ़ लें, फॉरेन ट्रेड डेवलपमेंट एंड रेगुलेशन एक्ट 1992 को पढ़ लें, उसी से आप कैलकुलेट करिए तो 40,000 करोड़ का अगर आपने माल निर्यात किया है, उससे 5 गुना ज्यादा पेनाल्टी उस पर लगती है, तो 2 लाख करोड़ तो इस पे सीधा सीधा कैलकुलेशन। ऐसा 10 सितंबर 2020 को कानून मंत्रालय ने यह पत्र, मैं ये संलग्न कर रहा हूं, आपको दे भी रहा हूं, इसके माध्यम से यह स्पष्ट भी किया कि छर्रों के निर्यात की अनुमति सिर्फ KIOCL को है, कुद्रेमुख आयरन ओर कंपनी लिमिटेड को है, और उसके अलावा अगर जितनी भी कंपनियां निर्यात कर रही हैं तो वो गैर कानूनी है। ये अब 10 सितंबर को निकला है 2020 को, 6 साल के बाद। यह न केवल फॉरेन ट्रेड डेवलपमेंट एंड रेगुलेशन एक्ट 1992 के तहत गैर कानूनी है, बल्कि कस्टम्स एक्ट 1962 को भी ये उसके अंडर भी अगर आप देखेंगे तो बड़ी सजा बनती है। हम मोदी सरकार से यह जानना चाहते हैं, उच्च गुणवत्ता के लौह अयस्क जिसमें 64% से ज्यादा लोहे का संकेंद्रण हो, इसके निर्यात की अनुमति किस दबाव में दी गई, क्यों दी गई? आते ही आपने ये क्यों निर्णय लिया? वह कौन सी कंपनियां हैं जिन्होंने 2014 से लेकर अब तक बिना किसी अनुमति के गैर कानूनी तरीके से लौह अयस्क का निर्माण किया? उनके नाम सार्वजनिक किए जाएं। 2014 से लेकर अब तक सरकार ने या सरकार की किसी भी जांच एजेंसी ने लौह अयस्क के इस गैर कानूनी निर्यात को लेकर क्या किसी निजी क्षेत्र की कंपनी की जांच की? ये हमारा तीसरा प्रश्न। हमारा चौथा प्रश्न है, केंद्र सरकार ने अपने किसी मंत्री अथवा इससे संबंधित किसी अधिकारी जिसने भी यह गैर कानूनी निर्यात होने दिया उसके खिलाफ क्या कार्रवाई की? स्पष्ट तौर पे बताइए। पांचवा प्रश्न है, इस 2 लाख करोड़ के घोटाले में देश के बेशकीमती प्राकृतिक संसाधनों की खुली लूट हुई है, उसकी नैतिक जिम्मेदारी नरेंद्र मोदी जी खुद लेंगे या किसी मंत्री पर डालेंगे या किसी छोटे से बाबू पे डाल देंगे? स्पष्ट करें किस पर डालेंगे। मैं अब अंग्रेजी में अपना स्टेटमेंट पढ़ता हूं, फिर आपके प्रश्न लूंगा। आई एम हियर टू एक्सपोज a Modi-made iron ore export scam running to the tunes of thousands of crores. There is a BJP corporate nexus that we keep exposing. This is another such example. Modi talks of make in India, but is often caught selling India. One more example of how he is selling India. The central government led by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has time and again openly exhibited its love, unconditional love for its corporate friends. From India's airports to seaports, from our telecommunications to our Navratna PSUs, in fact even our pride, which is the Indian Railways, everything is up for grabs for the friends of Mr. Narendra Modi. This government has forgotten that India, over successive generations, over successive governments, has been built brick by brick by the blood and sweat of every single Indian, not a handful of Indian industrialists. Each one of us, our forefathers, our parents, each one of them have contributed to the development, to the growth, to the building of India. The government has once again violated all principles, laws, rules to help some private players in the mining department, mining industry. The export of iron ore by India is met with a 30% export duty. These are important points which I would like to draw your attention on. And prior to 2014, only Metals and Minerals Trading Corporation of India, MMTC, was allowed to export iron ore. And even MMTC, which is 89% owned by the government, was allowed to export iron ore with 64% concentration of iron. The component of Fe had to be 64%. That was the policy prior to 2014. And even while exporting this, the MMTC had to take prior permission of the government. The export cap was placed on iron ore to ensure that there is sufficient supply of high quality iron ore back home in India to facilitate the growth of our indigenous steel plants. These are the temples of our development. So all governments made sure that these temples of our development are not left high and dry in absence of or any shortage of high quality iron ore. That's why these policies were put in place. After the Modi government came to power in 2014, all these rules, all these laws were thrown out of the window. In 2014, the Steel Ministry of India removed the 64% Fe concentration cap on iron ore, and along with that gave Kudremukh Iron Ore Company Limited the permission to export iron ore to countries like China, Taiwan, South Korea and Japan primarily. What the ministry did in addition to this was that a policy was drawn out where it was decided that iron ore exports will continue to have 30% duty on them, but if the same iron ore is exported in the form of pellets, charra in Hindi we call it, pellets, then there would be no duty on their exports. It was a very strange policy decision. A lot of steel observers had even then observed, but since it was a new government, People were blind, a lot of us were blind to what they were doing. But in successive years, we realized it was a huge scam. Despite KIOCL being the only company that had permission to export iron ore since 2014, several private firms have indulged in the export of pellets, escaping duty on these exports and earning immeasurable profits. It is estimated that these private firms have exported iron ore worth 40,000 crores since 2014, violating the law as they did not have the license to export iron ore. However, these private players, as expected, have not been questioned, reprimanded by the central government, and they continue to flourish by exporting iron ore through pellets. Even private firms that had iron ore mines of their own for personal consumption and use saw this opportunity and then colluded with the ministry, started exporting iron ore pellets. All this happened under the very nose of the central government, with absolute complete knowledge of every single official who mattered, every single minister who mattered. The corporate Modi alliance collusion since 2014 has harmed the country in several ways, and we keep coming back to you time and again to expose how. This time the government has allowed the theft of valuable national natural resource. These resources are the backbone of our economic growth, but are now in the hands of a few private players. By not paying the export duty, the private players have robbed the government of around 12,000 crores in duty fee. Under the Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act 1992, these private players are now liable to a penalty of 200,000 crores. And it's not a notional figure, it's an actual figure. Because under the Foreign Trade Development and Regulations Act 1992, you end up paying penalty 5 times the value of the commodity exported. So in this case, 40,000 crore worth of iron ore was exported illegally. Therefore, the penalty is 5 times of 40,000, which is 200,000 crores. On the 10th of September 2020, this year, a good 6 years after this policy was changed, the Ministry of Law and Justice clearly specified that the permission to export iron ore pellets was only given to Kudremukh Iron Ore Company Limited. This is illegal not just under the Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act, but is also a serious offence under the Customs Act 1962. All those private companies who are exporting in contravention to the 2014 policy are doing so contravening the laws. This is a government that works not for India, unfortunately. This government works for the benefit of the select few corporate friends. The recent farmers' bills have proven this. The happenings in the steel ministry and the mining industry have serious consequences for the entire nation. Therefore, we demand that an investigation must be initiated to expose this corruption which has been taking place since 2014, and how the officials in the steel ministry have allowed theft in broad daylight. And it can't just be the officials, it has to be much above that. Our questions: why was high quality iron ore with greater than 64% iron concentration allowed to be exported, contrary to earlier policies, contrary to earlier practices? Number 2, which are the private firms that have exported iron ore without permission since 2014? A detailed list of these private players must be made public. Number 3, since 2014, has the government questioned any private entity regarding their illegal dealings vis-a-vis iron ore export via pellets? What action has been initiated, if any, against the officials of the steel ministry, against any minister, against anyone who colluded with these private players and allowed them to export pellets illegally? Was the change in policy of removing export duty for iron ore pellets done in consultation with all stakeholders, or was it done in a hurry to immediately repay some of those corporates who may have funded Mr. Modi and who are still funding him? The people of India have lost trust in this government. This government has been caught selling the country's pride once again. And we have exposed Mr. Narendra Modi's priorities are corporates first, India last. Your questions? I would request you, please focus on this issue first. Please focus on this issue first. Ji. Our press release along with the annexure, which is the law ministry's thing, will also be distributed. It has already been distributed, so you can find it there. Our press release along with the annexure, which is we have demanded that all the names of those private players who've been caught indulging into this corrupt practice be made public. And obviously, if a scam has been happening for 6 years, you can't just blame one part, which is the corporates. Of course, they did the scam. But there is a government, which is an accountable government, which has allowed this scam to happen. So, the buck has to stop somewhere. We want to know from Mr. Modi, since in this government, every buck stops at him because there is nobody else visible. So obviously the questions are to him, he has to come out clean now. It's enough, 6 years, you can't have a honeymoon period for 6 years, you keep hiding from questions, you keep running away from issues, this cannot be allowed. Therefore we seek your help also to make this government answerable, to ensure that the government does not resort to headline management. If we focus on farmers, they'll go to Hathras. If we focus on Hathras, they'll go to somewhere else. This can't be allowed. Focus on all these issues that are important, including farmers, including Hathras, including the mining scam. जो भी रास्ता इसमें हमें सूझेगा, जो भी हमको लगेगा कि न्याय दिलाने में सक्षम जो भी रास्ता दिखेगा, हम उस रास्ते पर जाएंगे. फिलहाल हम आपके कोर्ट में आए हैं, आपके दरवाजे पर आए. No, that's for Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, if he is allowed to speak, because in this government no ministers are allowed to speak about their own department, they speak on somebody else's department. So we want Mr. Narendra Modi to make these lists public. We don't know who are the private players. Whoever these private players are, irrespective of who they are, let their names be made public. With the permission of there is, first of all, I object to the use of word clampdown. Just because a particular case needs the version, the statement of all the stakeholders, that would include, in this case, as you said, a journalist, does not mean that there is a clampdown. If tomorrow I am seen to be, or I am found to be aware of something, the investigating agencies would have every right, and it would also be their duty, to ask me. Now, asking me does not mean clamping down on me. There is a major difference between a straight, simple, legal, legitimate question and clamping down. So there is no clamp down. Let's remove this word out of our vocabulary when it comes to the Congress party, please. Because we are very clear, very sure of what are the laws of the land, how are they to be applied, and we are absolutely sure how they should not be misused. So we never misuse laws. What is your next question? So if as I said, in an ongoing investigation, you need to find out more details, more facts from whoever is in possession of those facts. Obviously there will be an investigation, but I can assure you, under our government, no misuse of any law on anyone will take place. UPCM has alleged that opposition is doing politics on dead bodies. Okay, they've been a written question has come, so I'll respond to that also. If I remember right, a lot of you reported August 2016, Uttar Pradesh, BJP was in opposition in Uttar Pradesh. Keshav Prasad Maurya was the president of the BJP. He, along with Mahesh Sharma and other leaders, visited Bulandshahr because there was a horrible incident of a rape and death in Bulandshahr. This was August 2016. The BJP was in opposition in 2016 in Uttar Pradesh. Did anyone say that you are doing politics on dead bodies? What kind of an insensitive remark is this? Coming from a chief minister who claims to be religious, who claims to be spiritual, he should think before he speaks. Just as Keshav Prasad Maurya was following his dharma as a Vipaksha leader, as an opposition leader, nobody asked him not to do that. As opposition, it's our duty to flag these horrible crimes, to lend our political voice to these crimes. What does this government want? विपक्ष मुक्त भारत? क्या चाहती है ये सरकार? कि इस देश से विपक्ष समाप्त हो जाए, वो जो कर रहे हो उनको करने दिया जाए, और कोई आवाज उठाए तो उसको किसी कॉन्स्पिरेसी का हिस्सा बता दिया जाए? ये मजाक बना के रख दिया है लोकतंत्र का। जब आप विपक्ष में हैं, जिन राज्यों में आप आज भी विपक्ष में हैं, आप भी आवाज उठाते हैं, और नहीं उठाते तो आप अपना राजधर्म नहीं निर्वाह कर रहे। आप भी अपना राजधर्म निर्वाह कीजिए, कौन रोक रहा है? आप बार बार हमें कहा जाता है कि अरे वहां ये हो रहा है, आपके राज्य में हो रहा है तो आप आइए और देखिए, जांच अगर नहीं दुरुस्त चल रही है तो आप भी आवाज उठाइए, आपका ये हक है, आपका ये कर्तव्य है। तो ये कहना कि विपक्ष लाशों की राजनीति खेल रहा है, इससे घिनौना मजाक हाथरस की उस बेटी के साथ नहीं हो सकता जो योगी आदित्यनाथ कर रहे हैं। ये डन? थैंक यू, नमस्कार। ठीक है, let's start the process.
watching me, shall realize.
You start,
जी जी सर, आप सब शुरू करें।
नमस्कार दोस्तों, मैं थोड़ा विलम्ब के लिए माफ़ी चाहता हूँ, लेकिन वैसे भी 4:30 ही होने वाला था, उससे पहले आज संभव नहीं था। आज हम जो बात करेंगे वो हाथरस से संबंधित है, लेकिन उसके बारे में, उस वारदात, घिनौनी वारदात के बारे में नहीं। वो विशेष रूप से ऐसी घिनौनी चीज के बाद